Hey everyone, welcome to this video. Today we are being very vulnerable and very transparent, talking about our regrets, the things that we did that we regretted during our courtship and engagement. And so we're kind of combine them together because our courtship was very short and our engagement was kind of short too. But these things are areas where we had regrets and we're going to share them with you. So hopefully you can learn from our mistakes and not have the same experiences. So we're gonna start off with our first regret, and that is not honoring physical boundaries. So we did a video on boundaries. We did not share this part of it. And we think it's important that people know that although we did remain pure, sexually pure in our courtship and engagement, we did not have sex before marriage. We still believe that there were areas where we could have done better, and so that's what we're going to talk about for our first point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess the biggest thing that we recommend and that we would say, our advice is, if our regret was not upholding, honoring physical boundaries, the then recommendation that we have is to then honor those physical boundaries, because really getting into the question of if you're in a relationship, if you're Christian relationship, and if you're already starting off kind of thinking with those questions of how far is too far, you've already gone too far. Courtship is meant to be to see if this person is a suitable person to be married to. And early on, the Lord showed me that physical boundaries really include just, hey, if you're getting heated, if you're getting aroused by what you guys are doing right now, you've already gone too far. It doesn't even have to be anything so obvious, like sexual intercourse or touching her. Touching all over her body, that's like an obvious. But if you're like, open mouth kissing, making out, which was what we did, and the Lord already told me that you already went too far. And why this is important is because honoring physical boundaries, you are now signing up for God's grace and His protection all over your relationship, your mind, your confidence and security. And when you cross that area, you have now said, I'm going to do this on my own and I can do just fine. When I crossed that area, immediately what I felt was anxiety. My decision making was out the door. My ability to really court her, lead her was just, you start on a faulty foundation. And if you want a foundation that's set on the rock, honor those physical boundaries. Mm-hmm. Let me tell you from experience, it is worth it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this area is not so clear for some people. I think people think that you can share a bed and not have sex and not cross a boundary. I think people think you can have oral sex, and as long as it's not like, actual like penetration, then that's, and that we never, thank goodness that was never, we never went further than open mouth kissing, making out, whatever you want to call it. We never went anything past that, and it wasn't like that was a common thing for us either. It was more in the very, very, very beginning of our courtship, and so, but still it was enough. And like Caesar said, it's not okay to see, well, how close can I get before it's sin? Because then it's
how
like,
close you want to get to the fire before you get burned.
It's showing like your relationship with a father is that it's like kind of like, how much can I like hurt you before you're really hurt? It just, you got to think about it as a relationship with the Lord first and foremost. It's not even like harming like us individually and harming like the relationship, because when you're courting and engaged, you don't belong to each other yet. I mean, you're not one, and you're not married until you're married. And that's not 3 days before your wedding. That's not the morning of your wedding. That is after you have vowed said the vows and said I do, and made that commitment of covenant to God and to the other person, that's when you're married. And so until then, you're totally crossing boundaries on so many levels. But your relationship with the Lord is the most important relationship, even more than the person that you're courting. And even now, as we're married, my relationship with the Lord comes first, and then it's my husband. But it's not hard to put those in an order, because the way that we live out our marriage and do marriage, it's not really hard. Like, I don't have to pick him over something else. So we're looking at it in those kind of ways too, because it comes back to the relationship with the Father, because sin separates, and we don't want to be separated from God. And that's why he's talking about anxiety and all the other things, because that when you're in sin, that's what happens. And so now we want to tell you what we would have done differently and what we recommend, and that is to uphold physical boundaries and honor purity and in our relationship. And that would have looked like not kissing with our mouth open. I mean, it sounds so simple, but I know for some people it's not. And for two people who were committed on, like, I wasn't a virgin, but I was 4 years abstinent, and the Lord, I believe, when I prayed the prayer of asking him to make me white as snow, he did. And so I was, I guess what you call, I don't know if this is a phrase, but like a born again virgin, where I went wrong, I repented, I changed my ways, and then I remained pure for 4 years. And before, we got married, or maybe longer, because 4 years is when we met, so maybe longer, maybe like 5 years. But all that to say, it's important to realize that we had really good intentions, and Caesar was a virgin. And so if he was totally like walking with the Lord in purity that whole time, it wasn't either of our intentions to cross any boundary and go into that to like the no zone, where God didn't want us. So it sounds easy to say I'm not going to, but it's not really until you're in that relationship and you care about that person a lot that you feel like it's easy to, right? So that was our first regret. And so our second point is going to be, or our second mistake that we made, was not investing in premarital counseling or a premarital counselor. And so that point goes to when we were courting, we talked to a pastor who was a mutual friend of ours, and we both knew. We talked to him, kind of letting him know our intentions, that we plan to get engaged. And we wanted kind of to have somebody who thought, like, before we even get engaged, what are your thoughts? And he worked with a lot of couples, and we really trusted him. I had a closer relationship with him than Caesar did, but it was a great like pre-check. And then the premarital counseling came in after he proposed. And what it comes down to in this category for us, and where we made the mistake, was we were being cheap, because we went with somebody who was going to do it for really cheap. Like, I think she charged us $150 for like 6 sessions. But here's the thing we're really messed up on, was the person who we chose. She is pastor, amazing woman, nothing against her, but she had a pre-existing relationship with Caesar and was kind of like a spiritual mentor to him. So even though I think she did her best intentions to be unbiased, she was biased. And I think that that's not like she messed up. I just think that when you've built a relationship with someone and know so much about them, because he had opened up to her on a lot of levels and a lot of things in his life for I don't know how many years. And then she is also really good friends with the family. She was really good friends with his family and his mom. So talk about whole like dynamic. And then I'm coming in, and then she's supposed to help us, and that's where we made a mistake. So not that you can't do that, but here's the thing. we were being cheap. We didn't want to spend the money. We were trying to be on a budget. And we didn't invest in one of the most important parts you need to invest in, which is the marriage. We tend to invest a lot of money into the wedding, but the marriage is what the wedding is for. So you need to realize where you're at. So you have to take accountability for yourself, and that the person who you're courting or engaged to has to take accountability for themselves, and you guys have to take accountability together on where are you guys. We needed a lot of help because didn't grow up. You say it because you say it so eloquently.
Yeah, we were, I guess you could say, first generation Christians in the sense of we had both really surrendered our lives to God. I mean, we came from families from Latin culture, which meant the religion of most Latin culture is Roman Catholic. So we had family that believed in God, believed in Jesus and all, but it was more just a belief. Just you go to mass, you go to you do the religious activity, and you really had no connection or relationship with him. At least that's what we saw in our family. And nonetheless, that is totally not a dish on the Catholics, by the way. That's just in our family. No one really lived it out. So that being said, we gave our lives to the Lord and had no real model for how to have a Christian home, a Christian marriage, how a man ought to honor his wife as Christ loves the church, and since we didn't have that, basically we just had the memories of what we saw, and we know what the Bible said, but how does that look practically?
Yeah.
How do you practically walk that out? We didn't know.
So it resulted in a very challenging first year of marriage. And I think that some people have amazing first years of marriage and they didn't go to counseling maybe, and they're just fine because their dad was a pastor and their mom is did Bible studies since she was 2 years old. And then the other, person grew up in the church too. And so you have to look at it case by case. We're sharing our story with you, but it is really just a good idea in general. So how do we fix that? Well, and what do we recommend? And what would we have done differently? Well, we would have invested financially into somebody who was unbiased and spent the money. And so what did that end up looking like for us? Well, 1 year into our marriage, 11 months into our marriage, we did marital counseling. It's not even pre anymore because we're 11 months married, and we did that for 6 months, and it was $110 a session, and we went 4 times a month. So it was almost $500 a month. And I was so mad that we were spending that money because there was a lot of other things I would have done with that money. And it was just so beneficial to us. I mean, it saved us. Mm-hmm. It really did. Yeah. So I just spend the money and do it right. And a lot of people offer it through the church. We went through a Christian counselor who was at a practice where all of the counselors were Christian, and they were tied to a church, but not the church we were going to. But you can find one, and don't be afraid to go there, and what you need. And if you need to go after, then go after and continue to grow and learn by mentors and people who are older than you, and whatever you need. Investing in your marriage is never something that you're going to regret or wish you didn't do. So that was a really hard learning opportunity. Mm-hmm. What word am I looking for? Learning experience. That was a really rough learning experience. I wish you would have passed it, but the Lord is faithful. So
and just before we get there, I just want you to also know that investing also looks different based on your needs. So a person who is a millionaire, obviously for them investing is a lot different than someone who who lives on minimum wage. So please don't look at the numbers per se. Just look at for you what in your means is a sacrifice. that's all it comes down to. What does it look like according to your means?
Yeah, that's a good one. Mistake number 3. Okay, want to go with that one?
Not silencing naysayers early in our relationship. Um, when we just got together, I had some family, some people dear and close who were kind of already not for Sharice and kind of gave their naysaying, and these weren't for any reasons that were like, showing red flags or signaling. These were for really superficial reasons. And this is what I mean when I say naysayers. Because if someone sees that maybe the person that you're with has some really troubling issues, that's not a naysayer. That's someone who's looking out for you. I'm talking if you have a parent, someone who's close to you, who's seeing who you're with and saying, well, I don't like where they're from. Not because there's something wrong with them, but I just don't like that she's from there. I don't like how short they are, or, their color of their skin, just very things that don't in the end matter. We're talking about bypass the heart, the value of the person, who they are really. Not seeing that, because and what it all comes down to is, we have people who just really love you, mean well, but they kind of paint a picture of what they think would be good for you. And there comes a point where you just have to realize, where is this coming from? Does this person carry weight in what they're saying, or is this really kind of just a very superficial statement happening? So eventually I did confront people and tell them, and kind of told them, nicely to knock it off, and that I'm committed to this woman and I'm gonna marry her. However, it kind of came on longer. So when I'm saying early on, you want to do it early on because two Christians coming together, wonderful potential for powerhouse, Holy Spirit powerhouse. Satan doesn't like that, and he will use any means to try to create doubt within your mind, and using people who you trusted and who mean well, but will maybe say things that don't matter and get you to doubt and kind of get you hesitant. So that's why I'm saying early on, if you can see something, if you can see a naysayer, if you see comments being made that are not helpful in the slightest, we recommend silencing it early on. And in fact, what we would have done differently is just placing boundaries. Just place that boundary early on, and you don't have to be rude about it. You don't have to be mean, but you do have to say, I don't agree with that. Please don't talk about my person that way.
And what I think another important aspect of that too is, it can be confusing, because if it's somebody who cares about you, you may listen to them and you may think that what they're saying is valid. But I think what it comes down to is you need to hear what the Lord has to say.
Yeah.
And not all people who are Christian have godly counsel have godly wisdom. It's kind of weird to say that, but you have to. A person is not God. A person is a person who has a soul, right? Who has a soul, which is your mind, will, and your emotions. And all those things are affected. I mean, those things are easily affected. And and I think that people meant well, even though it was against me. I think people meant well, but they were wrong. They were wrong. And I say this because when I was in a relationship, I was dating somebody, and the Lord told me to get out of that relationship when he was getting me from being not saved to saved. I was not walking with them at this time. This was the last relationship that I was in when I said, I can't do this anymore. Like, I'm doing this your way, God. I'm completely surrendering my life to you. I accept you as my Lord and Savior. that was the last relationship that I was in where I'm trying to give this example. When I broke up with this person, my mom was like, you can't do that. You're just afraid and scared. Why are you breaking up with them? There's nothing wrong with them. Because the Lord told me to. And she did not hear what the Lord told me. And she was trying to be helpful. And my mom like apologized about it. Like, she's apologized now. But in that time, that can even show you where they're trying to get him away from the right person. Well, my mom was trying to get me to go back to the wrong person. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
So, and he was so wrong. I'm like, thank you, Lord, that you got me out of that. But don't expect people to be on board with things that God tells you. That is not even about who you're dating. That could be if he gives you vision for something, a dream, an idea. You know the voice of the Lord. So seek him and ultimately follow his counsel, because the Holy Spirit is the counselor. So, and the fourth mistake,
resistant to change. Kind of on the same topic of, people giving well-meaning advice. So I had people in my life who were well-meaning in their intention, but they they made it a point to say, when you're in a relationship and as you're looking to get married, think about the things that you have that are in your life that you want to keep and that are important to you, because you don't want to lose yourself when you're in a relationship. And I know that comes from a well-meaning place, because it happens a lot of times where people just lose themselves and their good traits, good things about them that were wonderful. Now suddenly they're just not anymore because they married someone who doesn't like that, or who's not like that, and they kind of suck it out of them. So that was well intended, but what that created in me was a very big fixation to kind of keep things as much as they were, while integrating Sharice into it. It was really just a world revolved around me and keeping it as much as I liked it. And then I got Sharice here. There was none. That is not at all the picture of what marriage is. It's two being coming into one. You have a holy union that God is in, and he wants that. And you're supposed to change. That's if you don't change when you're married, that's not a good sign. So what I would have done is really is to embrace the change and to look to what I was gaining rather than what I was losing. And really, when you come with that mindset of looking forward to it and looking how you get to pursue this person, what you're just having great expectancy for what's to come, you'll be amazed as to how when you put the things of God first, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things he'll give to you as well. You'll be amazed as to how really those things that that were good about you, that maybe you were afraid of losing along the way, you'll still have it, and it'll come. Or maybe certain things that you may have liked, or routines that you had, if you like playing basketball with your buddies or whatever that looks like, you could still have things. They'll just look different for a season, or maybe different for a time. The point is, you'll actually find yourself. If anything, more things, good things come out of you when you put what's important first. And don't start off with a foundation of fear. Don't start off with that. Oh, I'm afraid that I'm gonna gotta keep this the same because I'm gonna lose myself. Don't do that. Start in a foundation of love, and then you can build something good off of that. And that's the only thing that'll last in the end.
Yeah, that was that did not make things easy, but I prayed a lot, and at the end, we got to where we needed to be, and we were married, and absolutely, two are becoming one. So by that, naturally, you are changing. I mean, it's a supernatural thing, but you do become one, and that is happens by slowly dying to yourself. And and that's what makes the process of the beginning years challenging too. But it's just an adjustment, and So we survived it, and we're grateful that we've come on the other side of all of these things, because we read this to you really quickly. I don't know how many minutes this video is, but living this was really hard, and it created a lot of turmoil and a lot of tears and fights, and on the verge of, maybe not even getting married at one point, because, people's disapproval of me, and I was upset about it, and, but the enemy will throw things. But I had to say, God, what is it that you want? And he wanted us to get married. Mm-hmm. And so, while you're in your courtship, while you're dating this person that you believe could be your future spouse, and while you're in engagement, just stay really close to the Lord, because that is the ticket, nothing else. We're telling you, have mentors, or get good premarital, and and stand up to family and place boundaries and all of that. But the number one thing is to stay connected to the Lord through the whole process, and he's faithful to get you onto the other side of it. And we hope that if you do walk through some stuff and you remember this video, you're not the only one, because you can feel like you're the only one and you're not. So that was our hope in this video. So we hope that it blessed you, and that something from this video, you'll remember it for your journey. And we just pray that, as you're waiting for your future spouse, or while you're in the process, that the Lord would just continue to be so good to show you the way, and just bless you with the desires of your heart. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.